Your home is where you can be what you are, 'cause you were just born to be. You can have a castle and diamonds for all to see, but you'll never have that peace of mind until you've learned to be free. So burn all your bridges, leave the old life behind. It'll make you jump on up and fight. You can't stand not to be right. It'll make you lie, make you cheat, so you won't be beat. It'll make you get on.
What was the overall feeling that you got from the song, like emotion-wise?
Emotional-wise, it almost sounds like the person in the song feels trapped. And they feel like they're trapped by their ego and how they have to put on a facade for everybody else.
Do any of these lyrics stick out to you, and why?
Well, the main lyric that sticks out to me is, your certainty turns to doubt. All in line, then you start flipping out. And it almost seems like the person in the song is just constantly doubting what they really truly believe and what they want to do.
Would you like to see a picture of what the artist looked like then and what he looks like now?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so this is him then and this is him now. Is that what you expected the artist to look like?
Nope.
What did you expect him to look like?
Well, I expected him probably to look like similar to the younger picture. Did not expect it to be Charles Manson. I'm not overly shocked that Charles Manson wrote it. I know that he tried to be in the music industry at one point in his life. I had no clue about this particular song now.
Your home is where you're happy. It's not where you're not free. Your home is where you can be what you are, 'cause you were just born to be. You can have a castle and diamonds for all to see, but you'll never have that peace of mind until you've learned to be free.
Does the song evoke any emotions in you? Also, what do you think the lyrics mean?
I find the song can be very relatable. I guess there's not really much of emotion you can put with that, but it's just like there's a consensus of sympathy with the person. It's kind of uplifting in a sense well, in my case, like it just feels like very uplifting, like someone's telling you it's okay for you to feel a certain way. Because to the lyrics, to me, what it's talking about is ideas of what home is, and a lot of people think it's like a physical place where you live, or perhaps it's like with family or something like that. So they'll show you their castles and diamonds for all to see. So it's just kind of like you can have all these possessions, you can live with these people and have a home with all these possessions, but it's not really home if you're not free to think or free to feel. So it's just like finding home within yourself, no matter where it is. With me, like I'm pansexual, and my family, well, not my main family, is fine with it, but outside the family I feel like I can't tell them anything. So university with my friends is more of a home because I'm more free to be who I want, and I'd rather be here than be with my family who can just give me possessions and not accept me.
It made me feel happy. It made me think, and it deals with some pretty hard stuff.
Basically, what I got from it was that like you don't always need to be home to be happy, as long as you like are in a good spot and like you're feeling love and you're okay with yourself, then you can call that home pretty much.
It's kind of a happy emotion because it kind of gives you some confidence that like you can make anywhere your home, like buildings don't matter, like it's just kind of wherever you have the people that you love and wherever you can kind of like feel at peace and free.
I had a little loving. I don't know. I like the music it's light and it's happy and it just seems sort of carefree.
Okay. So what do you think the artist looks like?
I think, he's probably, I would assume as a man, I would assume somewhat older, probably 50s, 60s maybe. And, probably long gray hair for some reason comes to mind.
Okay.
I picture a white man, probably around his 30s, more between his 30s and 40s.
What kind of personality traits do you think this artist has?
I think they're lonely. Maybe a little self-centered, but I don't know. I feel, oh goodness, they're just sort of trying to fit in is kind of what I'm getting.
Like confident kind of personality, but it could also be kind of like masking like some deeper kind of like angst.
Do you sense any dark undertones in this?
Well, when he says burn all your bridges, that's sort of a little, and leave your whole life behind, it's a little sort of like trying to be very isolated from the rest of the world. So that was kind of dark, and it.
Yeah, there's the lyric about like people showing their castles and their diamonds, like all these like kind of grandiose, sparkly things, but like not showing like really what they're thinking inside. And there's also burning your bridges and leaving your whole life behind, which is typically something that you're not really told to do. You're told to kind of like keep these connections alive, but this person's kind of like saying to move forward from like maybe a bad time in their life.
That it could be a woman stuck in a marriage or stuck in a family kind of forcing upon her marriage, because she's in a place where like she can get all these material things from a husband or from a man, but she can never really feel free in herself. And thinking of that reminds me of The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin, where Mrs. Mallard finds out her husband is dead, and she first off goes into despair, but then kind of gets this feeling of finally being free, that she can be herself and go wherever she wants, that the world is just at her fingertips. And then when she finds out her husband is actually alive, she falls into such despair that she collapses. So it's just, it gives me the idea of that, because of just getting away from things, getting away from someone that is caging you, and you just want to be free and be in a home where you're free.
Yeah. I noticed in some of the lyrics, like especially the one that says, your home is where you're happy, it's not where you're free. So it almost seems like whatever home you make is binding, almost as if you can't get out of it, you're not a free spirit. And it also says, like, burn your bridges, leave your whole life behind, you can do what you want to do because you're strong in your mind. Like, well, that kind of has a sort of positive light to it. Like, the idea of, like, burning your bridges and leaving your whole life behind could sometimes be considered a dark message.
Would you believe me if I told you that these songs were used to draw people towards joining a cult and ultimately murdering people?
That sounds really weird.
Would you believe me if I told you that this type of song was used to have people join a cult and ultimately murder many people?
So there was an immediate shock, but now that I'm sort of thinking about it, it makes sense. Because home, like, come join me at my home, and cults never seemed to be bad from the start, and they were all very welcoming. It wasn't until after stuff started to happen.
Would you believe me if I told you that this song and many others were used to persuade people to join a cult and ultimately murder people?
I would be quite surprised, actually, yeah. But then at the same time, I guess I could see that.
Would you believe me if I told you that this song, amongst other songs, were used to persuade people to join the artist cult and ultimately murder many people?
I feel like there might have been death involved in this when you said a darker meaning. I mean, looking at the lyrics, that does make a lot of sense now.
Would you believe me if I told you that this song and many other songs were used to persuade people to be part of a cult and ultimately murder many people?
Probably. That could be their home.
Do you know who Charles Manson is?
I do, yeah.
This is his work.
Is that right?
I would have listened to this song, but now that I've kind of found out that it's written by Manson, I'm a little freaked out by it.
Do you know who Charles Manson is?
Yeah.
This is his work.
What? Oh, gosh. Well then.
This is how he influenced people to join his cult, was through his music.
Well, that's crazy. It's funny that there's that line about the castles and the diamonds in it, because it feels like that's kind of what this is. He's like, I'm showing you this lovely, sparkly part of my personality, but really, this is a cult about killing people.
No. No, it's not Charles Manson, is it? Oh my god. Oh, shit. Oh, no. Sucks.
Can you find specific examples of a cult following in the lyrics?
So the little stanza that I found was, so burn all your bridges, leave your whole life behind. You can do what you want to do because you're strong in mind. That is definitely what a cult would do, or what a cult kind of gets you to do, is just forget everyone else around you. So as to isolate yourself and to join something different, away and isolated from everything else. So it's definitely something a cult leader would convince you to do.
Now that you know that it was Charles Manson, how do you view the lyrics now? Do you see any differences?
Yeah. They're crazier.
So are there any lyrics that you can see that have the double meaning, and can you kind of explain the double meaning?
Yeah, well, there's home in the title, and it's sort of a different type of home. It's not. My immediate thought was where I grew up, but that's not what he's meaning at all. He means his home, essentially, his thoughts, his place. Free, because he sort of had a trapped freedom in that, like every cult does. Love in your heart, you'll never be alone. It gives me the chills now, so.
I definitely did not expect that, to find out that those songs, like, they could sound so innocent out of context.
I'm also surprised that he was talented. Because you don't think of Charles Manson in that, beyond the fact that he was this crazy, psychopathic, sociopathic man who persuaded people into doing awful things. But I guess because he was charismatic, he was welcoming, he was open.